Hello friends, welcome to our channel Knowledge Amplifier. So today in this particular video we are going to discuss about Transient EC2. Okay, so already in our previous video we discussed about Transient EMR cluster, which is basically kind of a temporary EMR cluster we are launching whenever we need to execute any Spark code, and then we put a Spark submit as a step to that EMR cluster, and we continuously poll that whether the step is completed or not. And once this step is completed, if there are any further step, we submit to that same EMR cluster and complete all those. And once all of these steps are completed, we terminate that EMR cluster, right? So that's the basic idea of any transient nature compute engine. We will launch the compute instance and then execute our code and terminate when the code execution is done. So following that same pattern, let's try to understand how we can implement Transient EC2. That is, earlier we launched EMR cluster for transient approach. Now we will launch EC2 instance, okay, and we will execute certain code. And once the code is executed, once the code is successful, the EC2 instance should be automatically terminated. So just a quick recap of our EMR based approach. What we used to do can be shown like this kind of AWS step. Here we are starting our EMR cluster and we are checking whether the cluster is in waiting state or not. If the cluster is in waiting state, then we are adding a state. And if the cluster is not yet in waiting state, maybe it is in bootstrapping state or some other state, then we are waiting for the cluster. And this is basically continuously we are waiting until and unless the cluster is ready. Once the cluster is ready, we are adding a step. And once the step is submitted, we continuously poll for the status of that AWS step for the submitted. If the step is done, then either it will success or it will fail. Okay. And if step is not yet done, maybe it is running state, then we continuously poll, right? And maybe the step reached to failed state or completed state. Then if it is completed, we consider it as success. We terminate the EMR cluster. And if the step is failed, basically it goes to this particular failure branch. And maybe some notification we can send to the developer or the admin team that this step failed, etc. And then we terminate the cluster. So kind of this pattern we basically follow in case of transient EMR based approach, right? Now in case of transient EC2 based approach, what we can follow is kind of same only, that we will start an EC2 instance and maybe our codes, what we want to execute in that EC2 machine is sitting in some S3 location. As a first step, we'll download those in EC2 local files. And obviously we will perform using AWS CLI, that is AWS S3 CP command. And to interact between AWS EC2 machine and S3, we will take help of IAM roles. Okay. Once these scripts files are available in EC2, we will execute them. And maybe suppose it is a Python code, that Python code is pulling the data from API and etc. Any kind of transformation it is doing. And once the data is pulled, it may be storing that data in local files within the same EC2. From that particular EC2 local files, we can upload in some output S3 bucket for permanent long-term storage. And once this particular process is completed, that is data extraction is done, then we can terminate this EC2 instance. Okay. And here, whatever logs it is generating throughout these steps, that maybe we can store in a separate log directory. So this can be our transient EC2 based approach. Now the question comes, how we can launch a transient EC2 instance? So for that, we can take help of EC2 User Data. Okay. So here is a documentation link. You can go through that. So if you want to run any commands in your Linux instance when the EC2 machine is launching, then you can take help of User Data. Okay. And here you can see it is written, when you launch an instance in Amazon EC2, you have the option of passing user data to the instance that can be used to perform common automated configuration tasks or even run scripts after the instance starts, etc. Okay. So what we can do, we can take help of this particular feature of EC2. We can execute our Python code. And once the Python code is done, using that same user data, we can terminate this EC2 instance. And then, for example, let's consider that if the Python code fails or at any step of our that particular user data code, if some failure occurs, if we want to debug, then it will be very helpful if we store all these logs in some outside location, not inside EC2. So that's why this particular bucket is there where the logs will be dumped from the EC2 to log directory before the EC2 machine get terminated. And that way from that log location, we can explore what issue occurred or we can debug and deep dive into the problem. Okay, right? So without any further delay, let's see the implementation quickly. So here we are having a simple Python code. So here what we are doing, using the news API, we will fetch some news information related to India. Okay. So any news which is published with the key India, like that 20 separate news it will be fetching as per this news API, which I already discussed in my previous video also. And then that JSON data we are flattening a little bit. And then here we are writing that data as Parquet file format in this particular EC2 local file system, that is home Ubuntu news_data.parquet. So now using the API, we are pulling the data. Using request module, we are pulling the data and then writing in EC2 local system. Now EC2 instance will be terminated. So whatever data we have extracted from that API, it should not be staying in EC2, because transient EC2 means EC2 will be terminated. It will not be staying in running mode forever, right? So what we need to do, this particular file we need to send outside. So for that we can simply execute AWS S3CP command to put the data in some output directory from EC2, right? So that's the simple approach what we are going to do. So I hope you understood. This is our simple Python code. We are using request module to hit the API and fetching the data. Now let's go to our user data script, which is basically doing all the necessary imports before running our Python code. And this particular Python code, whatever is acting as news fetcher, that also will be staying in some S3 location. First, the EC2 instance will be launched, and from S3 to the local files of EC2, the Python code should be downloaded. Then only we can execute that Python code in EC2 instance or EC2 compute server, right? So all these things we are doing in user data. This particular shell script is very vital. Let's try to understand what it is written here. So here if you see, let's start from here. So here first we are updating, installing AWS CLI, because to download the Python script from S3 to EC2 local, we need AWS S3 command. Then to upload the data, whatever we have extracted from API to S3, that time also we need AWS S3 command, right? So for that we are installing AWS CLI, Python 3 pip we are installing, using pip3 we are upgrading AWS CLI, and then here some other necessary modules like Boto3, Pandas, PyArrow, FastParquet, all this we are installing. Why it is needed? Because here the news data whatever we are fetching, that we are writing as Parquet file format, right? Because Parquet basically columnar file format and it does many compression. So that way for long-term storage, it is optimized and it is preferred in big data world. So that's why I have chosen Parquet here. So to use Parquet to write the Pandas data frame in Parquet file format, we need PyArrow, FastParquet, etc. So all this installation we are doing, this we no need to do one by one. Once we upload the user data script in EC2, all this installation will happen in the backend, and then it will execute if any further script we have written. Okay. So here you can see, now once all this installation is done, we need to download the Python code what we want to execute in EC2 machine from S3, right? So AWS S3CP S3://newsfetcher.py. This is basically our this particular Python code we are installing in the current directory. So dot I have given to indicate in the current directory the data or the Python code should be downloaded. Okay. Then here we are running the Python code using simple command python 3 newsfetcher.py. And once the Python code is executed successfully, what will happen? This particular file will be generated, right? Home Ubuntu news_data.parquet. Now that data we need to move from EC2 local machine to S3 for long-term storage, right? So again we are executing another AWS S3mv command to move the data from EC2 local machine to S3 for long-term storage. And once this code is executed, what we need to do? We need to terminate the EC2 instance because it is transient EC2, right? And not only that, before terminating this particular EC2 machine, we need to make sure the logs, whatever is getting generated throughout the whole process, that should be uploaded in S3 for debugging purpose, right? So that is handled by this particular piece of code. What I am configuring here, that this particular shell script should be executed, and whatever logs it will generate, whether it is output or error, that I am storing in this particular log file. Okay. And once this whole code is executed, I want to execute a AWS S3CP command, and I want to copy this particular file to AWS S3 log directory. So for that I have written a simple function, AWS S3CP, and then this particular log file I am uploading in S3 logs directory. Okay. And once this particular code is executed, I no need this EC2 machine because my Python code is execution completed, and apart from that, all the logs whatever got generated, that also I have uploaded in S3. Now we can shut down the EC2 machine. Okay. So shutdown we can do using sudo shutdown now -h. Okay, and these particular functions would be called only if these all steps get executed successfully. Okay, so that's why I am executing this particular shell script trap upload log, that is this function I am calling once it exit. So what this particular line means, that first it will start from here, and once all these shell scripts are executed successfully, the code will exit, and once it will try to exit, that time using this trap command, this particular function will be called, and just before exit it will basically copy the data and do a shutdown. Okay, I hope you got it. This is basically very simple. All I need to do, instead of curly bracket, I need to put the proper S3 locations. So what I will do, I will log into AWS Management Console. So here we are now in our AWS Management Console. I will go to S3 and I will create a bucket. Within that, I will create 3 different folders. Okay, so here demo yt user data. Okay, right, and then here I will create the bucket. So here this is the bucket. I will create a first folder for storing the Python code. Okay, so here I can write the name as script, and here I can create the folder. Then here I can upload the Python script. Okay, so here I can click on upload, add files. So here we are having our newsfetcher.py file, and I can click on upload. So it is uploaded successfully. Now what I can do, I can create another directory, and this one I can give the name logs to store the logs whatever getting generated due to this user script running. Okay, another folder I can create, and this we can give the name output directory, where the extracted data will be stored. Okay, right. So now as a first step, I can go to the script file, and here I can copy this S3 URL, and here AWS S3 CP, there I can paste this name. So first, once all this installation is done, this particular script will be copied from S3 to our EC2 local, and then the script will be executed. Once the script is executed, the extracted data will be stored in this parquet file. That parquet file we need to upload in output directory, right? So let's go to the output directory. So this is the output directory. I can copy the S3 URL, and here I can give the name here. Perfect. And once this particular command is executed, that means our user data script execution complete. So that time this particular function will be called. All we are doing, we are copying the logs to this logs directory. Okay, so I will copy the logs directory URL, and then here I will paste it. Okay, so with this our user script is ready. Okay, so what I will do, I will open all three in 3 different tabs just to show you how it is working. So here we are having our scripts, and then here I will duplicate this, and here we are having our output directory. Currently output directory empty, logs directory also empty. Only in scripts we are having newsfetcher.py, right? So now we are all set to launch our Transient EC2. So I will open AWS Management Console in a new tab. I will go to EC2, and here I will execute our script in EC2, that is user data script, right? So here currently you can see no instance is running. I can launch an EC2 instance, and here I can give the name demo transient EC2. Okay, and Ubuntu machine I can choose, and maybe free tier eligible, let me choose one. It is done. Now here key pair actually not needed because it is transient kind of instance, but still I will choose one existing key pair if it is needed for some reason. Network setting I am keeping as it is, and after that in advanced details I need to configure some properties. For example, here from code directory to local files, when AWS S3 CP command, that is this particular command will be executed, that time the EC2 should have S3 access, right? So for that proper role we have to choose. Here already in our AWS EMR EC2 default role is there, which is having by default S3 access, so I will choose that one. Okay, then here shutdown behavior. So whenever this particular shutdown command we execute, then how the EC2 state should change, whether it should go to stop or it should terminate. So I want to terminate the instance when I am executing shutdown command from user script, right? So that way I no need to terminate the cluster or EC2 instance separately. So I will choose terminate, and then stop I no need to select. Termination protection I am keeping disabled, so that way it can be terminated using the shutdown script. Okay, and then here if I scroll below, here you will see an option of uploading user data file. So our user data file is basically this one, which is ready to be uploaded. So here all I can do, I can choose the file, and here I can search in desktop user try.sh, and this is our script basically, and all we can do, we can launch the instance. Okay, so what it should happen, that first the EC2 instance should be launched, and then all this installation should happen, and then from AWS S3 this particular directory, this Python file should be copied to EC2 local, then this Python code should be executed, and then the generated or extracted data should be uploaded to this particular S3 location, and then once it will try to exit this particular logs data, it should copy, and then it should have a shutdown. Okay, and upon shutdown we have configured that the EC2 machine should be terminated, so it should terminate automatically. So currently the instance state is running, let it run, and here in output directory we don't have anything yet. The logs directory also it is empty. Let's wait for some time and let's see whether we are getting any error or not. So here still it is running. Let's see. So if you see our output directory newsdata.parquet, just now it got created at 1:49. Currently also it is 1:49 p.m. Okay, right? And let's see our log directory. Here it started writing the logs. That means immediately this particular shutdown command will be executed once the logs getting copied from EC2 to S3 successfully, and the EC2 instance will be terminated. Okay, so still it is running. Let's see. So here see, now the state got changed to shutting down, and then eventually it will be terminated. Okay, so once let it get terminated, till then let's see what kind of news data it has extracted. I can download this data, and maybe here I can open some online Parquet reader, and then here let's choose that particular file, download section news data, this one, and here you can see that because here in this particular Python code I have written that I want to extract the data which is having information related to India. So here see India related informations or newses, it has written India hopes for progress on global agenda as G20 leaders meet despite rifts over the war in Ukraine and all these things. Currently G20 summit is going on and India is leading that, so related to that the newses are getting published, okay, with all the source URL, when it got published and all other informations, right? So here that means the Python extraction code has successfully worked, and here you can see that our EC2 instance also got terminated. So that means it is nothing but a transient EC2 instance. Our user data script has executed all the necessary things what we needed. Once it is done, it has terminated the instance. So that way we no need to provide any cost for unnecessarily running of EC2 machine in this case, because it is automatically getting terminated. The cost can be reduced in this particular approach. Okay, and last thing, let's check the logs, how the logs got generated. So these will be logs related to user data. So here we have downloaded that, and let's open that. So here you can see first command what we tried to execute in user data script is sudo apt get update. So here see sudo apt get update, it has tried to execute and generated all the logs. And then here we are installing AWS CLI. Here you can see AWS CLI. Then we executed Python 3 pip, and here somewhere Python 3 pip will also be there. So like that, whatever commands you have tried to execute, all the logs will be accumulated in S3 because the EC2 machine got terminated, right? Now here we cannot enter in this EC2 using putty or something to check the logs. So we need to make sure whenever we are running a transient EC2, we need to move the log outside EC2. That is, this particular part is very vital for debugging purpose, especially with user data, right? And that we can easily do using this particular trap command. Trap will call a function whenever the code will try to exit, okay? And in that particular function, you can basically upload the logs from EC2 local to S3 in a particular directory and then apply shutdown command, right? As simple as that. So I hope the concept of transient EC2 is clear to you. This one you can use in Airflow also. Using maybe Boto 3, you can launch an EC2 machine with this user data, and then it will act in transient nature, and once the job is executed, it will terminate automatically. No need to poll or do some extra activities, right? So this is a very popular pattern which is followed by industry when we no need to use EMR cluster, because EMR is mostly used for heavy computation, especially running Spark jobs and all. But suppose you have simple Python code, or Python itself is sufficient to execute the code, or maybe some shell script you need to execute which don't require much resource. So with EC2 machine also you can execute this code, right? So you no need to opt for EMR or Glue, etc. So this is the usage of transient EC2 machine. I hope it is clear to you. All the scripts I'll be providing in the description box or in the comment section. I will request you to execute this so that you will have a hands-on experience and you will have a clear idea out of it. Play with it, have fun. If you have any doubt, don't forget to ask in the comment section. I will try to reply back ASAP. This is all for this video. If you find this video helpful, then please like, share and comment. Subscribe our channel if you haven't subscribed till now. And don't forget to press the bell icon to get the notification of our latest videos. Thank you for watching.